Hey y'all, Instinct Survival is coming again with another Two Tip Tuesday. This time we'll be talking about bows and arrows. So, you know, kind of going with the thought pattern of last time, which is the Atlatl. In doing so, the evolution came to things like this. All right, so I'll just be blunt with you. We've had rain, and a lot of rain, and a lot of rain. So the neighbors are fixing something in their yard. That's okay, bear with it. Ain't nothing I can do about it this time. Even when we look for alternate locations, nothing I can do about it this time. So there's that. All right, so let's talk about bows and arrows. So in the previous video, and if you're not sure about that, right there, go look at the Atlatl. Okay, in the Atlatl, the development was to shorten the arrow and shoot a little bit further. So while you could use the Atlatl for something of long distance, the accuracy diminished over that period of time. However, if we look at about 64,000 years ago, it's believed that that's when the bow and arrow came into existence. There's been hieroglyphics of Egyptian writing, if you will, of different paintings and different images of the bow and arrow way back when. About 10,000 years ago, we start looking at the development of the bow and arrow for war. Now, the military started using it. In fact, the Japanese have an entire art form around it called kyodo, or kyodo. So there's hopefully the correct pronunciation. If you're Japanese, feel free to correct me, but that's about as close as I could get without it being French. So speaking of French and English, yeah, the longbows as well, coming there as far as being able to use it in military. And if we look at the most recent period of time, 1632 was when the last formal bow and arrow was used in that fashion. And the Battle of Dunkirk, 1940, there was a guy who brought his bow and arrow with him and ended up using it to kill somebody. So there is that. There's your brief history. So let's talk about the bow and arrow. First, we're going to start with the arrow because, again, it goes back to us talking about the Atlatl, right? So the Atlatl, we shortened it. This is aluminum, not even carbon fiber. And the benefit of this is it's lightweight, right? Being able to change out or adjust the tips just like we could with, oh wait, what was it? The Atlatl, right? Being able to change out the field tips. This one's a bullet type tip, a bullet point type tip, if you will. And then there's another one that's a bullet point, which becomes a field tip as well. You'll notice with the arrows, there's a couple of different features, right? You've got the nock, and sometimes this is just a divot cut out with a knife for your shaft or in the shaft of the arrow. But you'll also notice one is a different color. If you're using the Cherokee method where you're only utilizing 2 arrows, this does not come into play. However, when you look at a lot of store-bought ones, the reason for that is because that one goes outside of where you nock it on the bow. Now, we'll actually look at that in motion in a little bit so that you can understand quite fully what I'm referring to when I actually knock one of these up. Set it on the knock or notch it. No, we're not going there. Anyway, so there's your arrow, right? And these can range in size depending upon your draw length. And so let's talk about that for just a moment. In the bow, you actually have a poundage, you have a length, and then you have a draw length, okay? Draw length becomes where you're holding from here to the point of catch, if you will, right? And once you catch to here, then you release. Now, those vary based off of person, not based off of you using my bow for that specific method or for hunting, unless you are about the same size or the same draw length as mine. Okay, so there's that. That draw length is what's going to determine the length of your arrow. So by the way, all right, so let's talk about a couple of different things first. Let's talk about material. So we talked about carbon fiber briefly. You can use the aluminum shaft, this one, and then the other is a wooden shaft. Now there are some other materials out there which is kind of a conglomeration of others, but a wooden shaft is actually great for, number one, field practice, right? Practicing shooting, because if you break a $2 arrow, so be it. You break a $5 to $20 arrow, I didn't pay that for this, then you're heartbroken if it hits bends and breaks. So if you're shooting stumps, wood's probably a good way to go unless it's a really rotten stump. So there's that. The tips can range anywhere from, again, those bullet points I was referring to this is a spear point, and I'm trying to remember, forgive me folks, it's been a long weekend already, but in this there's the field tip, the bullet point, and I think this one qualifies as the field tip because it is pointed, and then you have the broad point. The broad point actually has typically razor blades on it. It's also longer, and it's designed for a strike kill perspective, right? It's going to go in clean. However, my opinion, these work just fine, right? If you hit your target, it's kind of like, and we're not going to get into the debate of ammo. What size do you want? 44, 45, 9 mil, 22. Okay, if you're hitting the target right, then you shouldn't have to worry about that. Self-defense becomes a totally different thing. Again, we're not getting into that. All right, so there's that part. The other is we look at the bow itself. Now, this is a Shakespeare archery, thanks to my buddy Casey Deming, who sold it to me. It was all twisted up. I took it to the archery store. Dude reshaped it and made me a nice Flemish bowstring. So that's a pretty string on there. Look at that. So there's that. But the thing about this is, remember we talked about the length and we talked about the draw length, and there's also a thing called the poundage, right? How much poundage it is, or what is the weight of your bow. And so those are usually indicated, and this is actually a great one because it says, and we'll see if we can get up to this. There we go. All right, so 52-inch draw, that's the serial number, 45 pound, and then number 2. Not sure what the number 2 is. Again, I didn't buy this new. So there's that. But that 45 pound is the poundage of weight. So 45 pound, when I go back and pull it back and knock it or set it into place in the catch position, then that's what that draw length is, or draw weight is, sorry, not draw length. The other side of it is we look at the ability to change these out. So that one pulls at 45 pounds, and I'm dropping stuff all over the place, sorry about that. That one pulls at about 45 pounds. I have a Sage Samick, which is a new fancified one. Look at that. So you can see where the other arrows came from, right? Nice little quiver, upside mount quiver, and nice little finger placements here. But this one pulls at 35, so it's a 62-inch and it's 35. A lot lighter weight and easy to pull. Good for practicing, but the difference is, this being a takedown, you can actually change out the limbs on this, and that's the other part about this, right? That poundage is based off of the limbs itself and the strength of them. How much weight can you put before they don't work, if you will, for lack of a better term, right? It's busted or could break. Now this one's actually designed for some fancy stuff. If I need to put a weight, which is an anti-weight on here, where it'll tip down if I'm doing archery targets, that's great. This will kill just about any small game out there. It will kill medium game. So if you're looking at regular deer, this will work just fine, not a problem. Then we go to the big boy. Some of you may know what this one is. This is a Ben Pearson, not a Fred Bear, just by the way. This is a Ben Pearson Cougar 7050. This one has a 62-inch draw, and then this one is also for a 28-inch arrow, 45-pound pull. Okay, so just as a by the way. Now, this one has actually got a crack in it, so I'm not sure that I'm going to be pulling this one at all. This one's now my showpiece, if you will. It's pretty. I had a very nice one. Let's just say that somebody's got it. That's the way we'll look at that. Then the other side of this is when we start looking at survival situations, right? The survival situation says that, hey, maybe I need to do something for myself. Now you can see this hickory one that I created, and I've drawn it, I have shot it. However, it has since dried. And I didn't have it in a place where it would take and cure for a long period of time. This is really strictly a survival bow. And in doing so, I thinned out the sides, or thinned the limbs, if you will, put a string on it, pulled, set it, and did fine. But now if I were to string this all the way up like it's supposed to, you will hear a crack. So there's that. I started to string it just so that I could use it for the video, and I don't have glasses on or anything like that, but I know good and well this thing's gonna pop. So there's that. Basically what I did with this is I found one, and just kind of give you the heads up, right? I found it, it's about 5 foot long. In doing so, I wanted to get one that was hand comfortable. So there's that. And then just started thinning down the two ends, or the limbs, if you will, to make it to where it would actually bend correctly in the opposite direction, right? So the reason for that, so we have a nice, sorry, not the opposite direction. I need to correct myself on that. I did it on this side so I could pull it this way. So these pieces that are thinned down are on my side. So by the way, and what that does, it reinforces the limb on this side. Now, yeah, okay, I stumbled over my words, not a big deal. But when we start looking at exactly how that works, is this reinforcement's the same as if you hear about a skin backed or a snake skin backed or a sinew backed bow. The bark on this is pulling the exact same function, right? It's being able to strengthen these limbs up a little bit more than what they would without it. So that's kind of what it boils down to. And this part is literally bank line. Now you can make it out of sinew, you can make it out of poplar bark, dogbane bark, and the list, or dogbane cordage. The list is kind of endless. However, think about a couple of things. You need to do tests before you go out hunting, simply because you pull back some of those like a poplar bark and it's dried out, yeah, it's gonna pop on you. That's the way it goes. So that's kind of the layout of things, guys. Again, wanted to talk to you about those, and then the other part I want to talk to you about is I actually want to knock one up so that you can see what it looks like. Now you'll notice this one has 2 yellow and 1 black. So at that point, the black goes to the outside, not the yellow on this one. Now, would I put them all the exact same every single time? Yes. Why? So I don't have to think about it, right? That's what it boils down to. This one also has a knock on it, and I just literally knock it in and slip it up, and then she's ready to roll. So guys, that's it. That's literally how it's done. You'll notice that I typically tend to go with this one because it's more of a lighter weight one, and it's smaller, so I don't have to worry about trying to catch it on limbs and things of that nature. So that's the way that goes. Anyway, guys, that's it. That's all there is to it. Thanks for all you do. Thanks for your likes, comments, subscribes, and shares. Don't forget to share. Don't forget to check out InstinctSurvivalist.com. And until then, use your instincts to survive. Thanks for watching. Beautiful. Hey y'all, Instinct Survivalist coming again with another 2-Tip Tuesday. There's 2s out there. All right, guys, this time we'll be talking about bows, arrows.